In a world filled with uncertainty, we find ourselves caught between the known and the unknown. We live in an age where information flows endlessly and clarity is often just a few clicks away. Yet, despite all that we know, there remains an undeniable truth. Life often presents us with moments where the path is unclear, where the future is uncertain, and where the next step is a leap into the unknown. It's in those moments that the most profound challenge arises, not in seeking understanding, but in trusting beyond what we can see, beyond what we can comprehend. Trusting beyond knowing is not an easy feat. It requires us to surrender the illusion of control, to let go of the need for certainty, and to embrace the mystery that life so often holds. It is a call to step into the unknown, not because we are forced to, but because we choose to. We choose to trust in something greater than ourselves, something that transcends our limited perspective. For so many, this journey of trust begins with a question. It's the question that echoes in our hearts when we face a challenge too great to bear, when the weight of life's burden seems unbearable, and when the answers we seek remain elusive. Why me, we ask. Why now, we wonder. But the true test of our faith, the true test of our resilience, is not found in the questions we ask, but in how we respond to them. When we face the unknown, we are faced with two choices. We can either allow fear to guide us, letting the uncertainty paralyze us, or we can choose to trust, even when we don't have all the answers. Fear has a way of convincing us that we need to know everything, that we need to understand every detail before we move forward. But trust is the antidote to fear. Trust says, I don't need to know all the details to take the next step. Trust says, I don't need to have all the answers to keep moving forward. Trusting beyond knowing requires us to relinquish control, to acknowledge that there are forces greater than ourselves at work in the world. It asks us to let go of the need to be in charge and to embrace the reality that we are not always in control of our circumstances. It invites us to place our faith not in our ability to understand everything, but in the belief that despite our lack of understanding, we are being guided towards something greater. This kind of trust is not blind. It is not a reckless leap into the unknown without any sense of direction. Instead, it is a trust that is rooted in something deeper, something that transcends our immediate circumstances. It is the trust that says, even though I don't know what the future holds, I trust that I am being led toward my purpose. It is the trust that says, even though I don't have all the answers, I know that I am not alone on this journey. In the midst of uncertainty, we often find ourselves looking for signs, for glimpses of clarity that will make the path ahead more obvious. But sometimes the sign we need is not a clear answer or a bright light illuminating the way. Sometimes the sign is simply the quiet whisper of peace that comes when we release our grip on the need for certainty. Sometimes the sign is the courage to keep moving forward, even when we don't know exactly where we're headed. Trusting beyond knowing is not about having all the answers. It is about the willingness to move forward in faith, even when the answers remain out of reach. It is about believing that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is a purpose at work in our lives. It is about knowing that we are being shaped and molded by our experiences and that every step we take is part of a larger divine plan. When we trust beyond knowing, we invite growth into our lives. We allow ourselves to be stretched, to be refined, to be transformed by the journey. Trusting beyond knowing requires patience. Patience with ourselves, patience with others, and patience with the process. It asks us to be willing to wait, to be still, and to trust that in time, the answers will come. But patience is not always easy. In a world that demands instant gratification, we are often impatient for results, for progress, for change. We want things to happen quickly, and we want to see the fruits of our labor right away. Yet trust teaches us that some things cannot be rushed. Some processes take time. Some transformations require seasons of waiting, of enduring the unknown before we can see the full picture. Trusting beyond knowing also means accepting that the journey may not always go as planned. We may encounter detours, setbacks, and challenges along the way. But these obstacles are not signs that we are on the wrong path. Rather, they are part of the process. They are the opportunities for growth, the moments that test our resilience, and the stepping stones that lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It is in these moments of struggle that we are often tempted to abandon trust, to give in to doubt, and to question whether we are on the right path. But it is precisely in these moments that our trust is most needed. When we face adversity, when the road ahead seems unclear, it is the strength of our trust that will carry us through. It is the belief that, even in the darkest moments, there is a light guiding us forward. Trusting beyond knowing also requires us to surrender our need for control. In a world that places so much value on self-reliance and independence, it can be difficult to let go and trust in something beyond ourselves. We are taught to believe that we must have all the answers, that we must be in control at all times, and that we must be able to navigate every challenge on our own. But true trust asks us to release that illusion. It asks us to acknowledge that we cannot control everything, that we cannot always make sense of our circumstances, and that at times we must simply let go and trust in the process. In the act of surrendering, we find freedom. We find the freedom to move forward without the burden of knowing everything. We find the freedom to embrace uncertainty without fear. We find the freedom to trust that even when we don't have all the answers, we are still on the right path. Trusting beyond knowing is not about abandoning reason or logic. It is not about ignoring the facts or refusing to seek understanding. Rather, it is about recognizing that there are times when we must step beyond the limits of our understanding and place our trust in something greater. And as we step out in faith, as we trust beyond knowing, we discover that we are not alone. We are not walking this journey by ourselves. There are people who walk beside us, who offer support and encouragement, who help us navigate the challenges of life. There are forces at work in the world, forces of love, of grace, of purpose, that are guiding us towards something greater. When we trust beyond knowing, we tap into that greater purpose. We align ourselves with the rhythm of the universe, with the flow of life that carries us toward our destiny. And in doing so, we find peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from knowing all the answers, but the kind of peace that comes from trusting that even when the answers are unclear, we are still exactly where we need to be. In the end, trusting beyond knowing is not a one-time decision. It is a continuous choice made over and over again in every moment of uncertainty, in every season of doubt. It is a choice to believe that even when we don't have all the answers, we are still being led towards something beautiful. It is a choice to trust that even when the path ahead is unclear, we are not walking alone. And it is a choice to have faith that in the end, everything will unfold exactly as it is meant to. Trusting beyond knowing requires us to move forward in life even when the path is unclear, choosing faith over fear, and believing that our journey has a purpose even when we don't have all the answers. True trust is about letting go of the need for control and embracing the process of growth, knowing that some things unfold in their own time and that setbacks and challenges are part of the transformative journey. Trusting beyond knowing involves exercising patience, enduring through the unknown, and believing that with each step we are being shaped, guided, and led towards something greater, even when immediate answers or clarity are absent. Life is filled with moments of uncertainty, times when we face decisions with no clear answers, or situations that leave us wondering what the future holds. Yet it is in these moments of ambiguity that we are called to exercise faith. Faith is not simply belief in something we can see or touch, but a deep trust in the unseen, a conviction that there is a purpose behind the chaos, even when we can't fully understand it. Embracing uncertainty with faith is an act of courage, one that asks us to lean into the unknown, to trust that even when we can't see the whole picture, we are still being guided towards something greater. In a world that often values certainty and clarity, uncertainty can feel like a threat. We are taught from a young age to seek answers, to solve problems, and to avoid ambiguity at all costs. We want to know what's next, we want to have a plan, and we want to be in control. The problem is that life doesn't always play by those rules. The road ahead is not always clearly marked, and there are moments when we must make decisions with incomplete information. These are the moments that test our faith. They ask us, can we still trust when the answers aren't clear? Can we embrace the unknown, knowing that our understanding may be limited? To embrace uncertainty with faith requires a shift in mindset. It calls for a willingness to step outside our comfort zones, to trust that we're being led in the right direction, even when we can't see the way. Faith doesn't mean we have all the answers or that everything will always turn out the way we expect. It means having the courage to take the next step, even when we don't know what lies ahead. Faith tells us that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to trust, something that can lead us to growth, transformation, and ultimately fulfillment. At the heart of this kind of trust is the belief that life has a purpose, even in the midst of uncertainty. It is easy to feel lost when we don't know what the future holds, when we can't predict the outcome of our decisions, or when the challenges we face seem insurmountable. But faith calls us to see beyond the surface of our circumstances, to believe that there is a greater plan at work. We may not always understand the details, but we trust that there is meaning behind the journey. We trust that even the hard times, the times of struggle, confusion, and pain, are part of the larger story being written in our lives. One of the greatest challenges of embracing uncertainty is the temptation to give in to fear. Fear thrives in the unknown. It is the voice that tells us we are not prepared, that we are not strong enough, that we will fail. Fear convinces us that we need to have everything figured out before we can move forward. It is the voice that tells us to hold back, to wait for clarity, and to avoid taking risks. But faith works in direct opposition to fear. Faith says that we don't need to know everything to take the next step. It says that even when we are afraid, we can trust that we are not alone, that we are being supported by something greater than ourselves. The process of embracing uncertainty with faith is not a one-time decision. It is a continual choice. It's a choice we make every day in every moment of doubt, uncertainty, or fear. It is a decision to trust that even in the midst of the unknown, we are being guided. This doesn't mean that we ignore our fears or pretend that uncertainty doesn't exist. It means choosing to move forward anyway, trusting that the path will unfold as we go. There is a deep sense of peace that comes from embracing uncertainty with faith. It is the peace that comes from knowing that we do not have to control every outcome, that we do not have to have every detail figured out. It is the peace that comes from surrendering the need to know and allowing ourselves to trust the process. This peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from the confidence that we are on the right path, even when we can't see the entire journey. When we embrace uncertainty with faith, we open ourselves to the possibility of growth and transformation. The unknown is not a place to fear. It is a place of opportunity. Every step into the unknown is an invitation to expand our horizons, to learn something new, and to grow in ways we never thought possible. It is through the uncertain moments of life that we discover our true strength, our resilience, and our capacity for faith. The challenges we face along the way are not obstacles to our success. They are the very things that shape us, refine us, and lead us to become the people we are meant to be. One of the most powerful aspects of embracing uncertainty with faith is that it allows us to let go of the need for control. Control is an illusion. We can't control every situation, every outcome, or every person in our lives. But faith teaches us that we don't need to. When we trust beyond knowing, we allow ourselves to surrender to the flow of life, knowing that even when things don't go according to plan, we are still being led in the right direction. This surrender is not about passivity. It's about accepting that there are forces at work in our lives that we cannot always understand, and choosing to trust that they are working for our good. In a world that often emphasizes self-sufficiency and independence, embracing uncertainty with faith requires vulnerability. It means admitting that we don't have all the answers, that we can't do it all on our own, and that sometimes we need to trust in something larger than ourselves. This vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to say, I don't know, but I trust. It is the strength to take that leap of faith even when we are uncertain of where it will land us. As we embrace uncertainty with faith, we also learn to embrace the present moment. Too often, we spend our time worrying about the future, trying to predict what will happen next, or longing for clarity that may never come. But faith teaches us to be present, to trust that the next step will reveal itself when the time is right, and that we don't have to have everything figured out all at once. The present moment is where life happens, and it is in the present moment that we can choose to trust, to embrace uncertainty, and to move forward with faith. Embracing uncertainty with faith also means accepting that there will be moments of doubt. Faith does not mean we never question or wonder. Faith means that even in the face of doubt, we choose to trust. We choose to keep moving forward even when the answers are not clear, because we believe that the journey is worth it, even when we can't see the final destination. Doubt is a natural part of the human experience, but it does not have to define us. What defines us is our willingness to keep going, to keep trusting, and to keep moving forward in faith, no matter the uncertainty we face. In the end, embracing uncertainty with faith is about letting go of the need to control, to understand, and to predict. It's about trusting that even in the face of the unknown, we are exactly where we need to be. Faith tells us that the uncertainty we face is not something to fear, but something to embrace, a chance to grow, to learn, and to trust that we are being led towards something greater than ourselves. We live in a world that constantly demands control. From the moment we wake up, we are encouraged to take charge of our lives, our futures, and our destinies. We are taught that success is the result of planning, precision, and knowing exactly what comes next. In many ways, control has become synonymous with power. We believe that if we can just control our circumstances, we can avoid failure, mitigate risks, and steer our lives in the direction we desire. But what if the key to truly living is not in the grip of control, but in the release of it? What if surrendering to the process, allowing life to unfold in its own time and rhythm, is where we find our greatest strength? Releasing control and surrendering to the process is one of the hardest things to do, yet it is also one of the most powerful. It is a practice of humility, patience, and trust. It challenges everything that we are taught about how the world works and invites us to step into a space where we no longer have all the answers or a perfectly mapped out plan. To let go of control means to accept that life will not always go as planned, that there will be moments of uncertainty, discomfort, and even failure. It asks us to embrace the unknown, to trust that the process is leading us somewhere, even if we cannot yet see the end. The desire for control often stems from fear. We fear what might happen if we let go, if we stop trying to micromanage every aspect of our lives. Control feels safe. It feels like a shield against the unpredictability of the world. But the truth is, control is often an illusion. No matter how much we try to control our circumstances, life has a way of throwing curveballs our way. Unexpected events happen, things don't go as planned, and the world can feel chaotic and unpredictable. Releasing control doesn't mean giving up on our goals or abandoning responsibility. Rather, it is a recognition that we cannot control everything and that we are not the ultimate architects of our lives. Surrendering to the process is an act of faith. It is a recognition that there is a greater force at work in our lives one that is beyond our comprehension, but also for our good. This force, whether you see it as the universe, destiny, or divine guidance, operates in ways that we cannot always understand. When we surrender, we acknowledge that we don't have all the answers and that sometimes our plans will fall short. But surrender also invites us to trust that the outcome, though unknown to us, is part of a larger plan. By releasing control, we allow ourselves to be guided by forces beyond ourselves, and we trust that this guidance will lead us toward growth, healing, and ultimately fulfillment. Surrendering to the process requires us to let go of perfectionism. So often we hold on tightly to the idea of doing things perfectly. We want to follow a set of rules, meet certain expectations, and achieve success in a way that meets our standards. But the problem with perfectionism is that it keeps us locked in a cycle of fear and stress. We become obsessed with the outcome, fixated on the result, and unable to embrace the journey. The process of surrender asks us to release the need to be perfect and instead embrace the messy, unpredictable nature of life. When we let go of perfection, we free ourselves from the weight of unrealistic expectations and allow ourselves to simply experience life as it is, in all its imperfection. Releasing control also means letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes. We often find ourselves attached to how things should turn out. We make plans, set goals, and build our lives around a vision of how we want things to unfold. But life rarely goes according to our plans. The things we hope for don't always happen, and the dreams we chase don't always materialize in the way we expect. Releasing control means allowing ourselves to detach from specific outcomes. It means trusting that there are many ways for our dreams to come true, and that the outcome we envision may not be the best one for us. Sometimes life has a different, more beautiful plan in mind, and we have to be willing to let go of what we think we want in order to receive what is meant for us. One of the most difficult aspects of releasing control is dealing with the fear of failure. We fear that if we let go, we will make mistakes, we will fail, or we will be hurt. But failure is not the end of the world. In fact, failure is often a necessary part of the process. It is through failure that we learn, grow, and refine our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Surrendering to the process means accepting that failure is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced as part of the journey. Every misstep, every setback, and every obstacle we face teaches us something valuable about who we are and what we are capable of. When we let go of control, we make space for these lessons to unfold. Releasing control also allows us to experience life more fully. When we are constantly trying to control every situation, we miss out on the present moment. We become so fixated on the future or the next step that we forget to appreciate what is happening right now. Surrendering to the process brings us into the present. It invites us to be more mindful, to pay attention to the small details, and to appreciate the beauty of each moment, even when things don't go according to plan. Life is happening right now, and when we stop trying to control it, we can begin to truly experience it. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive or complacent. It does not mean that we stop trying, that we give up on our goals, or that we become apathetic to our lives. On the contrary, surrendering to the process allows us to engage with life in a deeper, more meaningful way. It allows us to take action, but from a place of trust rather than fear. Instead of forcing things to happen, we learn to act in alignment with our values, our purpose, and our intuition, trusting that the outcome will unfold in its own time. But releasing control is not about doing nothing. It's about doing what we can while allowing space for the universe to work alongside us. In many ways, surrendering to the process is an act of love. It is a recognition that we are not in this alone and that there is support, guidance, and wisdom available to us even when we can't see it. Love is not about control. It is about trust, patience, and acceptance. When we surrender to the process, we open ourselves to receiving love in all its forms. Love from ourselves, from others, and from the universe. It is through this love that we find healing, strength, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the path ahead is uncertain. Releasing control is ultimately about freedom. It is about letting go of the weight of expectations, the burden of perfectionism, and the pressure to have everything figured out. It is about accepting life as it is with all its unpredictability and messiness. When we surrender to the process, we give ourselves the freedom to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to trust that we are exactly where we are meant to be. We free ourselves from the need to control every aspect of our lives, and in doing so, we create space for joy, growth, and transformation. In the end, surrendering to the process is not about giving up. It is about letting go of the need to control everything and trusting that life will unfold as it should. It is about embracing the journey, even when the destination is unclear, and knowing that in surrender, we are being led towards something greater than we could have ever imagined. In the fast-paced world we live in, patience and perseverance often seem like rare virtues. We live in a time where immediate results and quick fixes are highly valued, where instant gratification is just a click away, yet the truth remains that some of the most significant accomplishments and deepest personal growth come not from rushing toward a goal, but from enduring through difficult times, waiting for the right moment, and persevering despite obstacles. Patience and perseverance are not just qualities. They are powerful forces that shape our character, our success, and our journey in profound ways. Patience is not just the ability to wait. It is how we behave while we are waiting. It is about remaining calm and steadfast, even when things are not happening as quickly as we want them to. In our culture of immediacy, waiting often feels like a burden, a waste of time. We become anxious, restless, and frustrated when things don't happen according to our timeline. Yet patience teaches us that time itself can be a powerful tool. Just as a tree takes years to grow into its full strength, our lives require time to unfold in the way that best supports our long-term growth. Patience helps us embrace the present moment and trust that even if we don't see immediate results, the process is working in our favor. Patience is often most needed when things are not going according to plan. We face moments of doubt and discouragement when our efforts seem fruitless or when our dreams appear far out of reach. During these times, it is easy to feel as though we are stuck or that progress is stalled. Yet patience is what allows us to continue forward, even when the results aren't visible. It's the quiet strength to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when the path ahead feels unclear. Patience teaches us that progress is not always linear, and that sometimes the most significant shifts happen beneath the surface before they are ever visible to the eye. Patience is not passive. It doesn't mean waiting around idly or doing nothing until circumstances change. On the contrary, patience often requires great strength and inner fortitude. It is the ability to endure, to keep working toward a goal, even when the rewards are not immediately apparent. It is about being persistent even when setbacks or failures occur. Each moment of waiting, each moment of difficulty presents an opportunity to grow stronger. Patience is the choice to remain steadfast in the face of challenges, knowing that every effort is a part of the larger process. Perseverance, on the other hand, is the determination to continue despite difficulties. It is the resilience to keep going when things get tough, to push through challenges, and to not give up in the face of adversity. Perseverance is a quality that is often tested in the most difficult of circumstances. It requires us to summon all of our inner strength and determination to keep moving forward, even when everything seems to be working against us. It's not about avoiding obstacles. It's about finding the courage to keep going despite them. Perseverance does not mean blindly continuing without reflection. Sometimes perseverance involves making adjustments along the way, changing tactics, reevaluating goals, or learning from failures. It is not simply about stubbornly pushing forward no matter what, but about understanding that setbacks and mistakes are part of the process. The ability to persist through difficulties with flexibility, resilience, and a willingness to learn is what makes perseverance so powerful. The journey towards success is rarely a straight line, and perseverance is the force that allows us to keep moving forward, even when the road is bumpy, unpredictable, and filled with obstacles. One of the most profound lessons of patience and perseverance is the understanding that growth takes time. In a world that promotes instant results, it's easy to forget that the most significant achievements often require years of effort and dedication. The process of becoming better, stronger, and more accomplished is not instantaneous. It is built over time through consistent effort and sustained commitment. Whether it is learning a new skill, building a business, or cultivating meaningful relationships, patience and perseverance are essential ingredients for success. The power of patience and perseverance can be seen in nature. A seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout into a tree overnight. It requires time, nurturing, and a favorable environment to grow. Similarly, our dreams, goals, and aspirations need time to develop. We may not see immediate results, but like the seed that eventually grows into a mighty tree, our efforts will bear fruit in due time. Patience allows us to trust the process, while perseverance pushes us to continue even when the growth is slow or invisible. Both qualities are essential in creating something meaningful and enduring in our lives. The ability to persevere through challenges is often what separates those who achieve their goals from those who give up along the way. Many dreams remain unfulfilled not because people lack the ability or talent, but because they lack the endurance to continue when things get hard. When faced with failure, setbacks, or obstacles, it is easy to become discouraged and give up. But those who persevere understand that setbacks are temporary and that each challenge offers a lesson that will ultimately make them stronger. Success is not always about being the fastest, the smartest, or the most talented. It's about having the resilience to keep going when everyone else might quit. Patience and perseverance also foster a deeper sense of self-awareness. When we face challenges, we often discover things about ourselves that we would never have known otherwise. We uncover strengths we didn't realize we had, develop coping mechanisms we didn't know were possible, and learn to be more resourceful and creative in solving problems. The process of persevering through difficulties forces us to confront our fears, our limitations, and our weaknesses. But it also gives us the opportunity to grow and evolve in ways we never imagined. As we continue to push forward, we become more resilient, more confident in our abilities, and more connected to the deeper purpose behind our efforts. The journey of patience and perseverance is often about developing the ability to stay the course, even when the finish line seems distant or unclear. When we commit to something, whether it is a personal goal, a relationship, or a professional endeavor, there will inevitably be times when the journey feels long and difficult. It's during these times that patience becomes crucial. We learn that the road to success is not always quick and that the process itself is as important as the outcome. Perseverance helps us stay committed to our goals, even when the rewards are not immediate. It helps us to maintain hope, to stay focused, and to believe that progress is being made, even when it's not immediately visible. Patience and perseverance also encourage us to be present. While we may have an idea of what we want to achieve in the future, it is important to remember that the present moment is where the work happens. We cannot rush the process of growth, nor can we force outcomes that are not ready to unfold. Patience teaches us to appreciate each step of the journey, while perseverance encourages us to keep moving forward with purpose and determination. The combination of these two qualities allows us to stay grounded in the present while keeping our eyes on the future. In the end, patience and perseverance are the quiet forces that drive us forward. They allow us to navigate life's challenges with grace, to stay committed to our goals even in the face of adversity, and to trust that every effort we make is part of a greater process. While immediate results may be tempting, true fulfillment comes from the journey, the willingness to endure, to stay patient, and to keep moving forward despite the obstacles. Patience and perseverance are the keys to lasting success and personal growth.